listening to the DailyKen.com News Hour with your host, Ken Daly.
10 things you need to know about Donald Trump. Number one is Donald Trump is not running a presidential campaign. He is running a public relations campaign. He is building the Trump brand. So when he walks into a negotiating environment to make a deal, he's carrying a lot of weight. That's what he's doing. I'm convinced of it. That is my opinion. Number two, Donald Trump insults people to create media buzz. That's part of his public relations campaign. So when he made a smart remark about Carly Fiorina's face, what he was doing is he was trying to get her to respond. He was setting a trap, hoping she would say something so that it would create media buzz. So when he wants to get on the news, how does he do it? Does he talk about political issues or the economy? Does some. But when he really wants his name and his face on the news, he insults people. We said before the break, he did that, you remember, notoriously to Rosie O'Donnell. And you remember at the onset of his campaign, I think the guy's kind of fake because of this, but I don't know if he was joking or serious, but he said he wanted Oprah Winfrey to be his running mate. Now, he said the same thing 4 years ago when he was pretending to run for president. Why did he say that? Because he was setting a trap for Oprah Winfrey, thinking she would respond and he would get his name out in the media. He also laid into Dr. Ben Carson. And I was watching Carson respond to that on Fox News. And what Dr. Carson said was this. He lamented the fact that he had fallen for the ploy. He realized later what he had done. And by the way, the comparison is this. And I got to say this. I consider Ben Carson to be kind of the black version of Jeb Bush. I don't think he's a true blue conservative, even though he's miles infinitely ahead of the idiot we got in the White House now. That will get a call from the FBI. But he's miles ahead of Barack Obama. So Ben Carson realized that he fell for the trap and he acknowledged it, but at least Ben Carson is acting presidential. To his credit, at least he's acting with an air of dignity. But if you watch Donald Trump, he's not even trying to act presidential. He's being goofy. And again, he's doing it for a reason. That is public relations. He's trying to get his name and his face in front of the TV cameras. He's very good at it, and it's working very well for him. But you're going to find that when it comes election day, and I may be wrong on this, but I think you're going to find that between now and election day, he's going to drop out of the race. Number three is this. Donald Trump is pro-life. Now, when I say Donald Trump is pro-life, what I really mean is Donald Trump takes a pro-life position. There's a huge difference. Because we know a few years ago he was hedging on the abortion issue. So we don't really know where he is inside his head. All we know is what he says he is doing, where he says he is. So he takes a position that he is pro-life, that he is against abortion. That raises a question in my mind. You know, we were talking about this earlier. You notice the predatory left, when they talk about the incursion of the Islamic invasion into Europe, they call opponents to that xenophobes. They call us racist. We're just protecting, we're protecting our nations. We're protecting our culture. So they take something that is good and they apply a different term to it to give it a different connotation. Folks, they do the same thing with abortion. Now stop and think about this for a moment. Is it really abortion or is it infanticide? They're babies. They're killing them. It's infanticide. Why do we call it abortion? Now, years ago, when my daughter was born, my wife had what's called a C-section, cesarean section, because apparently that's the way Caesar was born. So they call it cesarean section. Well, when that happened, what they were doing is they were aborting, not my daughter, because she's alive and well. They were aborting the pregnancy so that the baby could live. So wouldn't that technically be an abortion? Wouldn't we say that a C-section is aborting the pregnancy so the baby can live? You see what they do? They take decent words and they abuse them. They misuse them. I've said this before. You know, the word liberal doesn't mean what we think it means. We in this country, because we have the freedom to carry firearms, those are liberal laws. But they have taken the word liberal and they've redefined it to mean something that it doesn't mean. So when we say, are you a liberal on gun control, somebody would say, no, I'm not a liberal, I am for Second Amendment rights. Well, that is being liberal, but it's not being liberal. See how they take words and they redefine them. They do the exact same thing with abortion. They're not aborting the pregnancy. Well, yeah, they are. But they're doing it by killing the baby. But you can have an abortion using a technical definition of the term without killing the baby. I can give you a couple other examples. When they take a woman who is pregnant and they induce labor, they're aborting the pregnancy. But they're not killing the baby. They're trying to save the baby. I guess, in a sense, you could say natural birth is a type of abortion. I don't really think so, but you get the point. So they take words like abortion, and they twist them, they abuse them, they make them say something that they really don't mean. Anyhow, number 3, something you may not know about Donald Trump is he takes a pro-life position. I'm not sure that he really is pro-life, but that's the position he takes. Number 4, Trump says our national debt has a point of no return. He says if the national debt reaches $24 trillion, that is a point of no return. I suppose I could agree with him on that, but folks, we have a national debt, what, $17, $18 trillion now? How are we going to return from that? How are we ever, as a nation, going to get out of debt? The fact of the matter is, most of our politicians in Washington don't really care. They don't care if we're in debt, and they don't want to get us out. They want to build the debt and build the debt. Maybe he has a good point on that. Folks, we got to realize that we have already crossed the point of no return. But Donald Trump says that point is $24 trillion. He said that back in June. Number 5. Things you did not know about Donald Trump. This is kind of a cop-out. Trump says, Trump isn't for or against gay marriage. Now, maybe you have heard him address this. I never have. When the question is put to him, his response was, and this is where the cop-out comes in, he says, well, that is an issue for states' rights. That's an issue for the states to decide. It's a states' rights issue. Well, I don't disagree with him on that, but he never actually answered the question. You know, one of the tricks I learned when I was running for governor back in 2004 is somebody would ask me a question, and I did this just for the fun of it. Somebody asked me where I was on the pro-life issue. You know, I talked about something that had nothing to do with pro-life. You know, after I talked for about 2 or 3 minutes, I looked at the guy who asked the question, and I said, does that answer your question? And he says, yeah. I didn't even address the question. And I think that a lot of times that's what politicians do. They will hedge. They won't answer the question. They will distract you. They will say, well, that's a question for the states to decide. And I think it is, but I still don't know where he stands on the issue. Do you? Maybe he said, I don't know, I have not seen it. Let me say this about that issue. Let's frame this as a question. Were George and Martha Washington married? I mean, were they husband and wife? Most people would say, yeah, they were. We know that's a historical fact. In fact, I did a little research. January 6, 1759, New Kent County, Virginia. George and Martha Washington got married. They got hitched in her home. Now, here's the glitch. They didn't have a marriage license. So how were they married? How is it possible you can be married without a marriage license? I know when I got married, 1976, actually we were married on the bicentennial, July 4th. So I would never forget my anniversary. But we were required by law to get a license to be married. If we didn't have a license, we would not be married. Why? If George and Martha Washington could be legally married without having a license, why can't we do that today? Now stop and think about this for a moment. George and Martha stood facing each other. I'm kind of elaborating here because I wasn't there. That was a long time ago. And they looked at each other in the eye and they made marriage wedding vows. When they did that, they entered into a binding legal contract. No license was needed. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You're listening to DailyKen.com News Hour on Liberty News Radio. Don't go away.